The boardroom was silent, thick with tension. The high-powered executives, once loyal to the CEO, now sat uneasily, watching him squirm in his leather chair. The man had built his fortune on lies, exploiting his employees and destroying the lives of anyone who got in his way. But today, his empire was crumbling. Clint Eastwood, the man who had been chasing justice his whole life, had finally arrived. His presence was commanding, and the once charming CEO's arrogance began to crack under Clint's unwavering gaze. The CEO tried to project confidence, smirking as if he could talk his way out of this. "Who do you think you are?" he sneered. "An old man trying to stop the unstoppable?" But Clint didn't flinch. His voice was cold, steady, and filled with years of experience. "I'm the man who's going to make sure you answer for what you've done." The room felt smaller as Clint's words hung in the air. The CEO looked around the room, seeing the eyes of his colleagues, once his loyal followers, now filled with doubt. He knew this wasn't going to be easy. "I don't know what you're talking about," the CEO stammered, trying to backpedal. "What do you think you can do to me?" Clint slowly walked to the front of the room, his eyes locked on the corrupt leader, who tried to maintain a facade of control. "I don't have to do anything. You've already done it to yourself," Clint said, his words sharp like a blade. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a thick file of evidence. It was the proof the CEO had tried to bury, the emails, the falsified records, the testimonies of the employees he had exploited. "I know what you've been doing, and I've got the receipts," Clint continued, letting the heavy weight of his words land. "You thought you could buy everyone. You thought you could buy silence. But I'm not for sale, and neither is the truth." The CEO's face paled as he began to realize that the moment of reckoning had arrived. He tried to reach for his phone, but Clint was already in control of the situation. "I wouldn't bother making a call. No one is going to save you this time." Double asterisk. As the CEO started to fumble for words, Clint didn't let him off the hook. "You've lived your life believing that money could shield you, that power could protect you from everything. But now, you're about to find out just how powerless you really are when the truth catches up with you." The CEO tried to stand, his hands shaking. "You don't understand," he said, his voice rising in panic. "I built this company. I'm the reason it's successful." Clint took a step closer, his presence enough to silence the room. "You didn't build anything. You took from people who trusted you. You crushed families, destroyed careers, and now you've got nothing left to hide behind." The CEO stuttered, his arrogance finally evaporating. He looked around at his colleagues, who once bowed to him, but now were watching in silence. Clint had stripped him of everything: his bravado, his power, his influence. Clint then turned his attention to the employees who had once been afraid to speak out. They had been silenced for so long, kept in line by the promises of riches and security. But now they were looking at Clint, the man who wasn't afraid to stand up to a bully. He had become their voice. "You've been given a chance," Clint said, addressing the crowd. "If you want to build something real, if you want to make sure something like this never happens again, it starts with standing up." The CEO was now a mere shadow of the man who had once controlled everything. Clint turned his gaze back to him. "The city doesn't need men like you. It needs men who are willing to fight for what's right, not for what's—" Clint's eyes never left the CEO as he was escorted out of the room in disgrace, his entire world crumbling. The employees stood in awe, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others with tears in their eyes. They had just witnessed justice in its purest form, swift, uncompromising, and without hesitation. Clint turned toward the exit, walking away as the others began to talk among themselves. He didn't need thanks. He didn't need recognition. For Clint Eastwood, justice was its own reward. He didn't stop to listen to the applause. He didn't need it. He had done what was necessary. And when it came to justice, that was all that mattered. And if you want to see more of Clint Eastwood's tough brand of justice, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon, because when Clint is around, the guilty never get away.